Our floor is weird. Just weird. Welcome to the Hippie Geeks and our schoolie conversion, Soul the Sunchaser. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to catch all our new content. So, the floor on our bus is weird. You may have noticed in the last flooring video that we do not have any wheel wells. None. What that means is that the entire floor level is set at where most buses' wheel well levels are. This gives us extra room under the side skirts to put things, and means that we don't have to worry about fitting our floor plan around the wheel well locations, but it leads to some weird interactions in the stairwell and driver's area. You will see what I mean as we move through this process. After getting the main area of flooring up, it was time to move into the stairwell and driver's area. As with any corner, there is a pile of metal trim to remove. We are setting all of these pieces aside in case we will be able to use them once we rebuild the floor. That includes the metal trim around the doghouse cover before finally removing the driver's seat. Remember, if you are pulling an air ride seat like we have, you will need to cut the air line going to it and then cap it off until you reinstall the seat. Removing the bolts was a real pain. Lindsay held the heads with a box wrench from above while I went below and broke them loose with a ratchet. When under there, beware of hitting the hot wire on the starter with your wrench. Not that I found that part out the hard way. Nope. There were no sparks under our bus, but if you run into that, you have been warned. Once the seat was out, I was able to remove the rest of the metal trim that was behind it. Once all the metal trim was gone, I was able to pull up the plywood from the top step over to the area behind the driver's seat. You can really see right here what I meant about the floor levels being weird up front. The stairs come up to this top step area that works around the doghouse into a notch that lined up with the seating aisle. However, a narrow channel runs all the way to the driver's wall, but the driver's seat and pedals are up on an 1.5-inch tall platform, while the main flooring is about 3 inches taller than that top step to be able to clear the tires. Maybe it's not that weird, but I have not seen any other buses with this setup. If you have, let us know in the comments down below. With that last little strip of that section up and out of the way, it was time to move on to the driver's platform. At this point, I pulled the heaters and hoses out of the bus, but as it was dark outside, I wasn't able to get any video of that process. I will come back later though and talk about how I was able to do it, which I think will be interesting for some folks, so make sure to check out that video when it goes live. Now, I had not noticed it yet, but if you look to the left, you can see a white panel that bumps out from the wall and comes into the driver's area. On top of that pop-out are all of our light and fan switches, and behind it is where all of the bus wiring comes together into the main patch panel. If you look closely, you can see that the flooring was installed before that panel was installed and filled with wiring, and as I am about to discover, no amount of prying is going to ever brute force that plywood up. When I finally figured that one out, we decided it was time to stop for the night, do some research, and come back at it the next weekend. What I obviously meant is that I was going to actually wait an entire month before getting back to it. What can I say? We got busy with other things. Life often takes over, and as we are in no rush with this conversion, we have the time to try to do things right. So here we are a month later, and as far as I can tell, there is no way to remove that panel to be able to remove the flooring. What we ended up doing though was buy a new tool to solve the problem. It's amazing how many times we have had to say that on various projects, but it rang true here again. We ended up picking up the cheapest Harbor Freight oscillating multifunction power tool they had, and a wood bit to go with it. It is pretty much the world's smallest chainsaw and allows you to plunge cut right up next to something. We decided to just let this section of flooring live under that panel as there wasn't any water damage to speak of, and this really is our only option if we want to pull this plywood up as much as possible. Here is what it looks like up close. You just take your time and let the tool do the work, and it will dig right down into the plywood. It makes a fairly thin cut line, and the blade can be put right up against something so that you can have a flush cut when you are done, which you will be able to see better at the end of this process. We are cutting it out in sections to make removal easier, as there are still a couple of screws holding it in as well. I apologize for shaking the camera. Trying to get a decent angle of these tight spaces means that the camera is very close to the tool and it vibrates a lot. At this point, I pulled up the high-low beam switch as I would be removing that section of flooring as well, but I did not pull out the brake and gas pedals as we don't really have the space under the pedals to add additional thickness for sound blocking or insulation. We cut right up to the pedal plate though, and then pulled out that chunk of flooring. After that, I worked on the flooring that was beneath the high-low beam switch and was able to get it out of the way. Once that was pulled up, we had successfully removed all of the plywood that we were going to be able to, which means that we can move on to the next step, which is going to be pulling down the wall panels. If this is your first time here visiting Soul the Sunchaser, it would be wonderful to have you subscribe. This channel is all about our schooly journey, the good, the bad, and everything in between. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and check out our Patreon page or merch store to support the channel directly. Until next time, keep seeking adventure, chasing the sun.